Hello everyone, my name is Joe LaRocca and I'm going to be discussing the character development of Tony Soprano through episodic television. There will be a lot to talk about on this subject, so let's just get right into it. So, the content in this video will contain about 4 sections. The first one will be about how Tony evolves not just as a mob boss and a family man, but also as a psychological figure who is shaped by serialized storytelling by looking into his dreams. We will also look into the psychology of Tony and how he navigates through such a hectic lifestyle as he endures the trials and tribulations of being a mob boss. Besides the dreams, we will also look into the other important elements that impact Tony, such as his moral ambiguities and rationalizations. And lastly, we're going to draw some comparisons to other characters from our class readings, because Tony ties into the themes of 2 important characters who we see change through episodic television. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. But first, I just thought I'd be nice enough to give you guys a spoiler warning for if you haven't seen The Sopranos yet. Psychological depth in therapy. The Sopranos uses psychological depth in therapy as key tools in constructing Tony Soprano not just as a mob boss or a family man, but as a layered, existential character. According to Schulman's interpretation, therapy serves as the show's central philosophical engine, or a space where questions of identity, repression, morality, and existential despair are explored in real time. Tony's sessions with Dr. Jennifer Melfi are not mere plot devices, but rather they function as introspective chambers where his contradictions, fears, and self-delusions are gradually revealed, allowing the show to build a detailed psychological profile across episodes and seasons. We see this in the Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot episode, where Tony suffers a panic attack when he's on the grill with talking to some of his friends and feeding ducks into his backyard pool. This is a surreal yet symbolic moment that therapy later connects to his fear of losing his family, hinting at his fragile ego and deep emotional repression. Schulman views the ducks as a gateway into Tony's unconsciousness, offering a rare glimpse of vulnerability beneath his gangster persona. We see this again in Season 1, Episode 3, titled Denial, Anger, and Acceptance. Tony reflects on his father's influence and begins questioning whether his violent instincts are inherited, or culturally ingrained, or even the result of his personal choice. Schulman would identify this as a moment of existential slippage where Tony's uncertainty about his true self comes sharply into focus. He knows what he has become, but unfortunately, he doesn't know who he really is. Repression and psychological defense. In Season 1, Episode 7, Down Neck, repression and psychological defense mechanisms are brought to the forefront as Tony reflects on his childhood experiences. He recalls memories of his mother manipulating him, and he places much of the blame for his emotional coldness on her influence. In his therapy sessions with Dr. Melfi, these buried traumas surface only to be quickly suppressed again through denial, anger, or rationalization. The therapy session becomes a kind of confessional space where Tony confronts his pain before instinctively retreating into a familiar pattern of psychological defense. Fear of losing family. In The Sopranos Season 4, Episode 11, titled Calling All Cars, Tony's fear of losing his family comes into the surface through a series of unsettling dreams. These dreams reflect his deep-seated anxieties about both his personal and familial relationships. As Tony grows increasingly frustrated with therapy, the combination of his subconscious visions and his conscious struggles highlight a profound internal conflict, which is his fear of losing over the control of the dynamics that bind his family together. Balance between families and moral ambiguity. The Sopranos carefully balances the theme of family loyalty with deep moral ambiguity, using its serialized structure to depict characters who evolve or don't evolve at all over the show. Unlike older episodic television shows where characters remain largely static, The Sopranos allows for a slow, complex development of its central figures. Schulman points out that this structure implicates the audience, drawing them into emotional attachments with characters who are morally compromised. We see this clear example in Season 1, Episode 5, College, where Tony takes his daughter Meadow on a college tour, which creates a touching moment of father-daughter bonding. But, simultaneously, Tony is tracking down and ultimately murdering a former mob informant in Febby Petrulio. This episode is a grim, stark reminder of ruthless violence, making the first major moment where viewers are confronted with the full extent of Tony's charm and his brutality at the same time. It just comes together like that. Moral Ambiguity Part 2. We're going to take a big step from Seasons 1, 2, and go right into Season 6, later into the show, Episode 13, titled Sopranos Home Movies. Tony and his family retreat to a lake house for what is meant to be a relaxing weekend. Initially, the atmosphere is playful, lighthearted, everyone's having fun, they're having drinks, suggesting a rare moment of peace. However, this tranquility is shattered when Tony and Bobby Baglieri get physical over a petty insult. The episode highlights how even Tony's seemingly better moments, better in quotes, with his family are inevitably tainted by his violent impulses. Despite the bonds he shares with both his mob family and his original family, Tony's core nature remains unchanged, especially as the series moves towards its conclusion, undermining any real hope for his personal growth or for redemption. Morals and rationalizations, the choices that we make. One of the most pivotal Sopranos episodes for exploring morality, guilt, and rationalization is Season 2, Episode 13, the last episode of the season, titled Funhouse, which fits perfectly within Schulman's existentialist interpretation of the series. This episode offers a deep dive into Tony's moral compass, both as a person and a mob boss. The surreal visions that Tony experiences are not mere plot devices, but become manifestations of his subconscious, grappling with guilt and inevitability. The episode is rich with symbolic imagery, including a fish, which represents the dead, cold, and inescapable truth, and the ocean, which symbolizes burial, conscience, and the depths of the unconscious mind. The night before discovering that Big Pussy, or Sal Bompensero, had been informing for the FBI, Tony comes down with food poisoning. This triggers a fever dream. In the dream, he speaks to a fish who is voiced by Sal, who confesses his betrayal, a surreal moment that really externalizes Tony's inner conflict. Deep down, Tony already knew the truth, but cannot just confront it directly. The dream brings to the surface all the guilt, betrayal, and emotional weight tied to the reality that he has to kill someone that he considers family. After waking up and confirming the truth with evidence, Tony, alongside Paulie Walnuts and Silvio Dante, take Pussy out on a boat to confront him. Despite Pussy's desperate attempts to explain and plead, they execute him and dispose of his body at sea. But before they do that, Tony ritualizes the killing. Further elaboration, Tony offers Pussy a drink, allowing him to speak and trying to sort of humanize the moment as before he carries out a cold-blooded act. So the murder is not really driven by rage, but framed as a grim necessity within the logic of mob loyalty, which is something bigger than just personal emotion. Yet Tony's expression afterward, blank, exhausted, and sick from the food poisoning, betrays how deeply the act wounds him, even if it means he has to fully acknowledge it. He has to refuse to fully acknowledge it. So, tying it to class discussion and topics. Mad Men continues to use the cinematic evolution pioneered by the shows such as The Sopranos, which moves away from the style of 1960s television, using high-budget single-camera cinematic techniques. However, Mad Men gives the directors greater control over the setting and allows for a more nuanced portrayal of character emotions and inner conflicts. The Sopranos realizes on serialized storytelling where character arcs evolve slowly and organically over time, contrasting sharply with the episodic standalone plots of 1960s television. The contemporary cinematic style enhances the show's ability to explore morality, morally ambiguous and psychologically complex characters such as Tony Soprano's development is revealed through detailed visual storytelling and symbolic imagery. Don Draper's ongoing identity crisis is often framed in similarly cinematic and introspective ways. Part 2 of topics related to this subject in class is through the House MD. So, with House, each episode centers on solving a medical mystery. The lead's character's internal conflicts, his arrogance, cynicism, and personal struggles evolve steadily throughout the series. Similarly, in The Sopranos, Tony Soprano's personal struggles, such as his panic attacks and emotional repression, are explored over time, particularly through moments like his hallucinations while taking Prozac, and just like the episode Isabella. Serialized dreams are specifically designed to develop deep character arcs across a longer narrative structure. This allows characters to change and evolve into more intricate and sustained ways. So Tony's dream and psychological episodes are key examples of this gradual exploration, while serialized dramas offer the richest opportunities for character evolution. Procedural dramas like House can also achieve character complexity by weaving personal struggles into the self-contained stories of individual episodes. But for both Gregory House and Tony Soprano, they are both anti-heroes who have to navigate intense internal conflicts, moral ambiguity, and emotional isolation. Each of these elements are shaped by the unique narrative structure of each of their respective shows. So, really, why does all this information matter? We have Tony Soprano, Don Draper, Gregory House. Each of them embody moral ambiguity in distinct yet overlapping ways. So for House lies to others in his relentless pursuit of truth. Tony kills under the justification of protecting his family, and Don Draper sells an image of perfection while privately chasing a deeper sense of meaning in his life. So, despite their different paths, none of them really find true peace within themselves, and each character is defined by internal contradictions that challenge viewers to reconsider traditional notions of good and bad, especially within worlds that reward power and carefully crafted appearances. Each character is morally ambiguous, and each of them engage in actions that challenge the conventional idea of what is right and what is wrong. And with that, I have you my project, my presentation. I really appreciate you guys listening, and I'll see you soon.